Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be doing a review of the entire Fullmetal Alchemist manga by Hiroma Arakawa. This is a manga that took me, I think, over a year to read. It was my very first manga. I just want to shout out Cyril for putting Fullmetal Alchemist onto my radar. He was the one that really persuaded me to pick it up because I had it on my radar, but I wasn't really sure whether that was the one I wanted to start with. But Cyril, shout out to Cyril again for really amping it up for me and, was a big part of the reason why I ended up picking it up. So 27 volumes, 108 chapters later, it's done, it's finished. And I did start doing reviews of some of the individual volumes, but in the end I decided I was just gonna review the whole thing. I have to say, I loved it. Like, overall, I think it's a really good manga. I think it's particularly a very good beginner manga. It is shonen manga, which is generally targeted at younger boys. But I think even as an adult, there is some really interesting thematic work that comes up in this manga that is very relevant to the world that we live in. And that was a big part of the reason why I loved it. So let's talk about what this manga is about. We are following two brothers, Edward and Alphonse Elric, as they try to get back their human bodies. Edward has a metal arm and Alphonse is basically contained in a full metal body. And it's really about their journey trying to essentially do like an alchemical process to get their human bodies back. The problem about doing that process though is that it's very dangerous and it's very questionable, yet they feel very strongly about it. So we're with them on their journey trying to figure out how to undo that process that led to them having metal parts, essentially. Now let's go into what I liked. Now, this isn't going to be a really long review. I'm going to try and keep it relatively succinct. Bear in mind, this is a very broad world. It is 27 volumes. It's a big series. It's not like a small manga series that you could read in a day. Like, this will take you time. And so I will try to keep it concise as much as I possibly can. So what I liked. I love the story. I think this is a really nice story. I think the overall journey that we go on with Ed and Alphonse is really satisfying. And I think from where we start to where we end up is like, it makes sense. We see them go through so many ups and downs, and we see them go through like side quests to get to their ultimate quest. And I just think it's really well paced, really well executed overall. We're rooting for these characters at every single step of the way, even though they haven't necessarily always made the best decisions. But if you look at it in the context of them being young boys, which they are, you are rooting for them at every single step of the way, even though they've made some bad decisions prior to the events of this book. So I really liked the kind of adventure journey that we're going on with these two young boys. I think a lot of people will relate to it in some way. Not that we're trying to undo alchemical processes on our body, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I think there's a lot of things about these two characters that many people will find relatable. I also really liked the brotherly relationship between Ed and Alphonse. I just think they're a really great duo because they balance each other out. One is a bit more boisterous, loud, bit cocky, a bit arrogant, but you're kind of here for it. The other one is a bit quieter, a bit more rational, a bit more introverted. And they balance each other out, and it's just really nice to read. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the art style. I think the art is really good in Fullmetal Alchemist. I mean, I haven't read tons of manga, so I don't have like many comparison points, but I think the art style gets across the message the book wants to get across, or the writing wants to get across. I think the action scenes were done particularly well, and I think there were a lot of detailing that was captured really well that I didn't always pick up on. But Cyril and I started buddy reading it at the start, and he was like pointing things out to me, and I was like, damn, I didn't even realize that. And it's just so incredible that they were able to really pull out those details in a way that if you're searching for it, it's there, but if you're not, you're not going to miss out on it either. And I thought that was really cool. The next thing I'm going to talk about is like the writing and the pacing. I think the manga is a little long. I think it's a little bit too long. There are some side quests that are a little bit unnecessary, but I do think they do give a nice break from the main storyline. I think some were really enjoyable and some were just like not. I think it's kind of like with short story collections, right? You're not always going to love every single short story equally, so you're not going to love every single side quest equally. I think some are going to be more fun and some are going to be a bit boring, and so you just have to power through those. But I think despite the fact that it is a little long, and I think some of those side quests could have been taken out, I do think it gives us more time with the characters to really build that relationship with them and really understand who these people are and why they're doing what they're doing. And that brings me on to the characters, one of my favourite things to talk about. I'm only going to talk about a few characters because, you know, there's a very wide cast of characters, and I have to say the secondary cast of characters is great. But let's talk a bit about Ed and Al. So Ed is our kind of main character that we're following. He's the brother with the metal arm, and he's the one who kind of makes all the decisions. He's a natural leader. He's really good at getting buy-in from people and getting people to do stuff. He's very immature as well. Like, I think one thing about this manga that I didn't really like was the humor. I think the humor is very much targeted at a younger male audience, and just like a young audience in general. And like, you know, I'm an adult. I didn't always like the humor. That aside, I do think Ed does bring lighter moments to the book that is sometimes needed when there are some very heavy themes being discussed. With Al, I think, you know, like I said, Al is the opposite. He's very much an introvert, whereas Ed is very much an extrovert. He's very loud, very boisterous, you know, doesn't really care what people think. Alphonse is much more quiet, much more reserved. I think that is partly because of the fact that he is in a mechanical body, and I think that impacts him, you know, kind of mentally as well. But he's just very rational, very calm. People get drawn to him very easily because he's like that. And I definitely think he's someone I quite liked being in his kind of side quests more so even than Ed's, because I just like the quiet type more. I just find it more engaging to read. The next one is Roy Mustang. Roy is great. I really like Roy. I like his arc from where he starts to where he ends up. I think he's a very compelling character, and I think he's one of those people you always expect him to be bad, but then he surprises us by being good. I'm rooting for him, even though I don't necessarily always get his game plan, but he's just, I don't know, he's one of those characters that you're very torn by, but yet you're supporting him even though you're not necessarily sure what he's going to do next, and I kind of love that. Next up, we have Winry. Winry is, she helps Ed and Alphonse with their like parts, and she's great. She's super smart, she's super bright, she's an engineer, and she has a bit of a crush on Ed, and Ed has a bit of a crush on her, and they're kind of cute together. And I just really like her. I just think she's a great character. I think she's, you know, she's fiercely loyal, and she really cares about the two brothers, and she really cares about like friendship and family. And yeah, I just really liked the character. I just thought she was really well done. And then last two, we have Scar. Scar is a villain in this story, but then, you know, whether he actually is the villain is a question mark. And I think, I'll come on to themes in a second, but I think he represents some of the most interesting thematic work in this story. And, you know, he's an outsider, he's an outcast. He is portrayed as being the number one enemy, but in actual fact, he's a good guy, and we're rooting for him, and we want people to realise that he's not as bad as people make out. I really like that for him. Like, I really liked his ending as well. Like, I thought it was really satisfying. And then last but certainly not least, my favourite character probably of this entire manga is Izumi. Izumi is Ed and Al's teacher at one point. She's just amazing. She's just amazing. I just wish we'd had more time with her, honestly. Like, I would love a whole manga just about Izumi. She's just such a fascinating woman. She's very strong, like very mentally strong, physically strong. But she has a lot of vulnerability. She's been through a lot of stuff, and we learn more about that as the manga goes on. And it's very emotional because you really feel for her, and you really understand why she's so protective of Ed and Al. You want her to get what she wants, but you know that she can't, and you feel just very sad for her. But at the same time, she's very good at what she does, and a lot of people really respect her. And yeah, I just loved every single part she was in. Every single part. Like, absolutely fantastic character that I actually do think about now and then, like, genuinely. I really can't wait to watch the anime as well, because I can't wait to see how she's represented in the anime. All right, lastly, we're going to talk about the themes, so the thematic work. And there's a lot of surprisingly quite adult themes in this manga that are handled very well and very appropriate for a younger audience. A big part of that is war and the impact that war has on societies and the people in those societies, about how it can be very destructive naturally and how it can be used as a weapon in itself. I think another kind of extension of that is like tolerance and the acceptance of the other. And I thought this particularly was handled really well, and I was completely unexpected, actually. There were a few moments in this manga where, you know, Scar is our kind of outsider, and how I think he's almost portrayed for the majority of the manga as being the bad guy. But when we realise actually the bad guys are the people supposed to be protecting people, and he's not actually the bad guy, he's a victim. You know, the narrative shifts quite a lot, and I think that was really well done. And I have to say, you know, I've been studying a lot about like Japanese history, society, culture recently, especially because I'm learning the language. It's quite surprising given that Japan is a very homogenous country. You know, if you go to Japan, like, you will almost only see Japanese people. Like, it's known for being a very homogenous country. I know that's starting to change more and more now. But I found that message to be in the book surprising, given what I know of Japanese culture and society. And it was a nice surprise. Like, I really liked it. The next kind of theme was the kind of whole idea of what makes a human human. Obviously, a big part of this manga is that Ed and Al, they're not entirely human because they have robotic parts. The question is, are they any less human than any of the 100% human characters just because they have a robotic arm? You know, that question comes up, and I really like that. And then one last theme or kind of idea that came up was this idea of being so obsessed with an end goal that you kind of lose sight of why you're doing it in the first place. I think this particularly gets represented really well in Ed, where he sometimes jumps a bit too far ahead without really thinking about the consequences of what he's doing. And sometimes it ends up hurting other people. I thought that was a really good message to give to young kids, and also to adults as well, but naturally this is targeted at young boys, right? So I think that's just a really good, I think all of the messages in the themes are really good messages to give. And I just thought it was very unexpected, but like I said, in the best way possible. You know, I'm not going to give a rating to this manga because I think that's really weird. Like, I rated each of the volumes, and I think most of the volumes were between like a 4 and a 5 stars. I think this is a really, really great beginner manga. I think it's a great manga to read if you don't want to read something really heavy, but you want to read something that has like meaning to it, right? It's not just like fluff, right? Like, there's actually some meaning to it as well. I really liked it. I am going to watch the anime next. I know there's like 2 animes, I think. I don't know which one to watch first, so let me know down below in the comments which one I should watch first. But I will watch it in Japanese as well, because that will help with my Japanese a little bit. But overall, I had a really, really good time with this manga. I can't believe it's over. Like, it's taken me a while to get there, but I really enjoyed it overall, and I would definitely recommend it. So let me know down below what you liked about this manga, if you liked it, and what you disliked, if you disliked it. I'd be really curious to have a chat with you folks, and I will see you down in the comments. Thanks for watching this like super quick review of this like massive manga. I couldn't really think of another way to do this, so I did it like this. But yeah, I'll see you down in the comments. Thanks for watching, folks. Stay safe as always. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.